here, she's going to help me share this wisdom and tell this story.
Deliver me, 'cause all I seem to do is hurt me. Hello. Thank you for tuning in to WDRB Media, the voice of the community. The only station giving you double the information and inspiration. You're listening to Here I Am Radio, and I'm your host, the one and only Tawana Pruitt, a survivor utilizing my life's experiences to enrich and empower all of whom I encounter. In addition to being an author, I am also a leader, a life coach, and a motivational speaker who fights a strong fight for women and children. Our show is sponsored by Canvas Creations by You, owned and operated by Harold Anthony, located at 5256 Memorial Drive, Suite 1204, Stone Mountain, Georgia, 30083. Telephone number 678-680-8711. Book a private party, a birthday celebration, a bachelorette, date night with your boo, and or team building event. Canvas Creations by You can help you celebrate anything. Our show is also sponsored by Here I Am, Lord, I Surrender. This book covers 3 different women's testimonies. Their testimonies express the horrific acts of violence that they experienced at the hands of someone that they loved and trusted. How they continue to stand on the promises that God has made. These women are gracious. They are vibrant. They are God-fearing women, and their stories will surely bless anyone that reads it. You may purchase this book online at Ingram Spark or Amazon Kindle. You may reach the author directly at 470-735-5054. On today's show, we will be discussing God's grace and mercy is sufficient enough for me. 2 Corinthians 12:9, King James Version reads, "And he said unto me, My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Most gladly, therefore, will I rather glory in my infirmities, that the power of Christ may rest upon me." 2 Corinthians 9:8, King James Version reads, "And God is able to make all grace abound toward you, that ye always have all sufficiency in all things, may abound to every good work." Ephesians 2:4 in verses 5. King James Version reads, "But God, who is rich in mercy, for his great love wherewith he loved us, even when we were dead in sins, hath quickened us together with Christ. By grace ye are saved." Lamentations 3:22 and the 23rd verse reads of King James Version, "It is of the Lord's mercies that we are not consumed, because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness." And one of my favorites, John 3:16, King James Version reads, "For God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." When we return, we will continue our discussion on God's grace and mercy is sufficient enough for me. You're listening to Here I Am Radio, and I'm your host, Tawana Pruitt. You're tuned into WDRB Media, the voice of the community, the only station giving you double the information and inspiration. We'll be right back after this break.
In my mind, I want you to be free. For all of our friends, would you listen to me? Now hear what I say. in heaven. What a joyous as I sit around by the fireplace, watching the gleaming tree. If I had one wish in this world, it would be that all men would be free. Let's all hold hands and celebrate the Savior. Let's give thanks unto the world. Jesus, tender and His word. Sleep in heaven, heavenly peace. Just sleep and relax your mind. To all our family and friends, I want you to remember this line. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to all of you. And we mean it. Merry Christmas.
Welcome back to WDRB Media, the voice of the community. And those streaming live through the free TuneIn Radio app and through iHeart Radio. You're listening to Here I Am Radio, and I'm your host, Tawana Pruitt. If you're just tuning in, we're discussing God's grace and mercy is sufficient enough for me. As a survivor, I will continue to utilize my life's experiences to enrich and empower all of whom I encounter. In addition to being your radio host, I am also an author, a leader, a life coach, and a motivational speaker who fights a strong fight for all women and children. I believe that grace in Christianity is the free, unmerited favor of God as manifested in the salvation of sinners and the bestowing of his blessings. Whereas mercy is a love that responds to human need in an unexpected or unmerited way. At its core, mercy is forgiveness. The Bible speaks of God's love for sinners. That is for all of us. The Bible also correlates mercy to the other qualities beyond love and forgiveness. When God came to earth and died on the cross for our sins, he bestowed grace upon us all, every one of us. With your belief in God, we also understand that with his sacrifice, we gained everlasting life and forgiveness of our sins. He intercedes on our behalf to his Father to seek our forgiveness when we sin. Yet, we still find ourselves as human Our flesh is weak. There's temptations, and we sin. But as we grow in our faith and we learn and accept our accountability and responsibility to do better, things get better. Move out of your own way and let God move for you. That's what he does. You just gotta open up, accept it. Just almost like looking up to the sky and with open arms and saying, you know what, Lord, have your way. I've been trying this myself and it's not working. And watch how God's grace and mercy becomes sufficient enough for you. I'm going to give you a perfect example. I spoke with my mom and my aunt, who is 77 years old, my Aunt Vivian in Chicago. I spoke with them the other day. My aunt described the scene to me that she was riding in a city bus to go do some shopping for herself. That when she exited this bus at her stop, she was immediately approached by a young man requesting for her to give him her purse. His intention was to rob her. She said to him, "Sure thing, just let me get something from it." She then reached inside of her purse and she removed her Bible. This young man replied to her, "Do you think that is going to stop me from robbing you?" My aunt replied, "No, but you could still have my purse." Unbeknown to him that her money was not in her purse. However, as she was holding on to the purse and her Bible, she began to cite, "Your grace and mercy is sufficient enough for me." And she said this about 3 times. When she looked at the young man again, he was now crying, and he said unto her, "Oh, lady, I'm going to leave you alone," as he walked away crying. That is a perfect example of God interceding on our behalf. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that anytime you encounter a situation that is of a safety concern, to start citing that God's grace and mercy is sufficient enough for me. I'm not telling you to do that. I was in awe of my aunt when I heard that this took place. But you would really have to know my aunt to know that she's a little spunky little 77-year-old lady, but I'm thankful nonetheless that she was safe and she was unharmed and she got to keep her purse, even though the only thing was in her purse was her Bible. The bottom line is that without God's grace and mercy, we would all be so messed up right now. Look at everything that's going on around in this world. Get you some God's grace and mercy and see how things work out for you. You can't depend on your spouse, a family member, or a friend. They're doomed to let you down. Those that are closest to us are the most to disappoint us. Remember that. Now, if you put all your trust in him, and he will never, I promise you, he will never disappoint you. All you have to do is believe in him as you walk in your faith. For he said, "I will supply all of your needs." After this break, we will continue our discussion on God's grace and mercy is sufficient enough for me. You're tuned into WDRB Media, the voice of the community. The only station giving you double the information and inspiration. Don't go anywhere because we will be right back.
I can't give up now. See, I've come too far to turn around. Turn around now. Let me journey. See my body, sometimes it get alright and will fade, but I know all of my works down here won't be in vain. I'm glad I got a few more rock, few more real, but one day I'm gonna make it. I'm gonna make it. Top of the hill, Lord, I've come too far to turn around now. One more thing, sometimes I find myself standing at the crossroads in my life, standing there wondering which way should I turn. Seem like every time I turn to my right side, I find trouble, confusion, misunderstanding is already on my right side. I turn to the left side, find out somebody's sick, somebody's in the hospital, somebody's done passed and gone on. And every time I look, I see healed, 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 and more healed, and more healed that are already waiting on me. Makes me feel like I just wanna fold my arms, sit down somewhere and just moan. But then when I begin to take inventory over my life, when I turn around and look back over my life, I can see all the hills, I can see all the mountains, I can see all the valleys. God has already brought me over, and that makes me know, and that makes me know. I still wait, still wait. I'm glad I got a few more. I still wait, still wait. Anybody ever have to sometimes just my master. If you'll just free my little soul, I'll run. Maybe pains in my body, but I'll run. And the one that I thought wasn't the same one was putting stumbling blocks in my pathway, but I got to run. And no matter how high my heels get, how low my balance become, I promise one Friday night, if you just free my soul, can't give up. I'll run on now, cause I can't give up. Can't give up now. It's been too many years.
Welcome back to WDRB Media, the voice of the community, and those streaming live through the free TuneIn Radio app and through iHeart Radio. You're currently listening to Here I Am Radio, and I'm your host, Tawana Pruitt. If you're just tuning in, we're discussing God's grace and mercy is sufficient enough for me. As a survivor, I will continue to utilize my life's experiences to enrich and empower all of whom I encounter. In addition to being your radio host, I am an author, a leader, a life coach, and a motivational speaker who fights a strong fight for all women and children. We've been discussing God's grace and mercy being sufficient enough for me. The idea came about based off of a conversation that I had with my mom and my aunt. Now, my mom is my go-to person when I want to have a conversation about the Bible when I can't reach other people. I'm going to always go to my mother first. And I thank God for her because she's very obedient to his word. Love you, Mom. My Aunt Vivian is a 77-year-old. The hair is white as snow. And she's spunky, right? For me to be told that she basically was going to just, have this conversation. You could have my purse. Just let me get something out of it. That made me smile because I thought about how she is, right? But I'm telling you, that is not what you do. Somebody asks you for your purse, they attempt to take your purse. Whatever's in it, they can have the person as content. Don't go out there saying God's grace and mercy is sufficient enough for me. Her faith is very strong, and she's covered by his blood, and she walks in her faith every day. And I appreciate her for that. I thank God for protecting her. Now, my mom, but we call her Deuce, she does things of that nature too. But again, her faith is very strong, and she walks in it on a daily basis. I want to thank them for sharing that with me, because a lot of people don't get that. They don't understand God's grace being enough. They don't understand it being sufficient enough for them. I would like to thank you for tuning in. Continue to tune in every Friday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Please remember to connect with me by going to WDRBmedia.com. Click on the radio shows tab and go to Here I Am Radio page and follow. Also, if you would like to be a guest on the show or want free advertising, call me at 470-735-5054 or email me at 3518. That's 3518enterprise@gmail.com. You've been listening to Here I Am Radio, and I'm your host, Tawana Pruitt, on WDRB Media, the voice of the community, for double the information and inspiration. Until next week, continue to be blessed. God's grace and mercy is definitely sufficient enough for me.
I have my sister Leandria here. She's going to help me share this wisdom and tell this story. my background sing.